Hi everyone, welcome back to Grandpa Mark's Hobbies. Build update number one, probably of one, of the Goodyear Blimp made by Revell. I got this kit a while back. I did an unboxing and everybody was like, oh, I can't wait to see this thing. And I had a bunch of other stuff to do in the meantime, but I finally got down to it and I'm having a blast with this. So let me get the guys out of the way and I'll show you what I did. I was just told that I haven't knocked anybody over in a while. Look at Wayne sitting on top there. Good thing it wasn't a dirigible. But oh look, hold on a minute. Daisy's still hanging out. But this is just kind of and Zach's hanging out. This is kind of just clicked together real quick because I was testing out the lighting. Found out that the motor is not going to work for what I want to do with this kit because it is so stinking loud that everybody would go deaf. But we got the lights to work, so I'm happy with that. Just a touch switch inside. Give me a second. I'll tear this apart. I'll bring it right back, and I'll show you what I did inside. Okay, I popped the top apart. This is a snap-together kit, and it's made to come apart because it's supposed to hold D batteries in here. Well, I want this to be a lot more permanent than just running off of D batteries. And I really did kind of want this thing to spin, but the decibel levels literally set off my alarm on my watch, saying it was too loud. So, and I was told that it was pretty dang loud, but I didn't expect it to be that loud enough to where it had set off my alarm. And I tried to oil the motor. I tried, thinking of different things, but this thing just screams when it's just me doing it by hand. And it spun just about that fast, so it was super loud. So I decided to heck with that. I was able to get it to where it would work with the wiring I did. The wiring you see here, this just runs down to a voltage regulator and then to a 12-volt plug. I wanted the 12-volt plug just so I had enough oompah for this thing so that I could drive the LEDs that I'm using. And hold on a second, I forgot to pull them out. So I'm using an LED strip, and there's a whole bunch of little LEDs all the way across this. And it's 5 volt, but unlike most of the other LEDs that are 5 volt, this is very flexible, but it doesn't want to run on a 5 volt USB charger or telephone charger. That's what I was going to do, is just cut the telephone charger wire, splice it in, and run that just to a USB. This needs a little bit more oompah than that. So I thought we'll take the voltage regulator, and when I say voltage regulator, this is the voltage regulator I used. I'll put the link in the description here, but it's super duper simple to use. Input plus and minus, output plus and minus. That's it. And then before you put your outputs on, you put your inputs on. I plugged it in, and with the little pot right here going counterclockwise, and it had to go pretty far before it started to actually be super it was, when I first was trying it, it was so touchy it wasn't even funny. And then I realized I wasn't turning it far enough to get the pot to run. So I put my voltmeter on the outputs, and I just turned that down until I had, I think it's 5.1 volts, and that was enough to light this up. And I'm going to pull this thing apart while you're here. It is plugged in, and the other thing I did is I used this little switch right here. This is just a finger touch switch because this thing is going to probably have power on it, and I don't know if I want to run this all the time or not, so I wanted to give the option to shut this thing off. And this is just super simple. You got your voltage coming in, which is the output plus from this, the minus coming in, which would go to the ground, and then the line running for the positive side of the LEDs goes into the I/O, And it's just that easy. The I/O goes from this to the plus on the LEDs, and then the ground from the LEDs, I just tied right into the ground here, about halfway down the wire. Convenience for me. But these things are really, really cool. The touch switch is so simple. All you got to do, and this is through the plastic, is you touch it, turns it on, touch it, turns it off. On and off. And what you have to do to make it do that, because if you don't do this, when you touch it, it comes on, and when you take your finger off, it goes out, is this little B right here. See where it says B? Those two little solder joints or solder pieces, you have to put a little piece of solder in there and solder it down. And it took 2 seconds. A little flux, dab of the 0.3 millimeter solder. Look, I mean, I'm using this stuff for everything. Goes in there, heat it up, dab the solder in there, and makes a little jumper. And then when you turn it on, it stays on. You can see by the red LED, I'll be covering that up so you can't see it through it. But that's all there is to it. And what that gave me the opportunity to do is, none of this is attached because I'm still in test mode here. But that gave me the opportunity to take those LEDs, and you can see it flashing on and off. Take those LEDs and put them across where the lights used to go. And I got into all this because 2 of the incandescent lights were already messed up. They wouldn't light. I showed continuity through the bulb, but no matter what socket I put them in, those 2 would never light. So I think there was something wrong with the bottom part of the light bulb, because it didn't look like it had enough solder on it to actually touch the inside of the base. But you see, all you got to do is get close to this. I'm not even touching it, and it's turning it on and off. So it's able to go through the plastic. Now, how cool is that? The LEDs are sticky taped on. I will do something here to make sure that these are on here better. Maybe a little aluminum foil between the 2 coppers. As long as I don't touch the coppers, the aluminum tape will hold that in there and won't short it out. But that's all there is to it. It really is. The motor would go in the back here. It goes into that gearbox. I had it in there. It did work. It kind of goes in like that. It did work. It spun it. It spun it nice, but my gosh, was it loud. So I'm not going to put up with that. I really am not. I'll either make one of these. They comes with these papers. This one's already made, obviously, and I was just putting this in there to test it. But it's got a couple of cool ones. I'm not going to show you any of them until I do my finale, which will be pretty soon now because I'm close. But before I button this all up, I wanted to show everybody what my plans were. This is really a neat. I mean, if you were going to build this back in the day, or or use the D batteries, this is a cool idea and a neat setup. The batteries would go in here. The wires would run down through the hole in the socket here, so the centerpiece stays stationary, and the outer drum spun. And it spun off these little gears on the outer ring of the center off the hub. And that was just this little gear on the bottom of the blimp right there. Would spin that. So you had this gear spinning all the reduction gears to come down for the drive gear on that to give it enough torque to spin that paper around that. Well, since I'm not going to spin it, I'll do something here to make a nice looking setup. I think it's going to look awesome over the Texaco station. But this just kind of drops into place here. This will drop in to place right here. In these, my fingers are in the way. Just that simple. It drops in, it locks in that way, and then this pulls forward, spins around, it pushes back, and it locks into place. So what I'll do is I'll get the sign where I want it on here. I'll push it back in place, and that's just where it'll stay. So I'm not going to have a rotating sign. I'm just going to have a permanent sign. And then to hold that in place, they have this really cool clip that goes down. How about if I get my hand out of the way? It goes down into this slot right here, like that. And when you push down on it, the gap holds this in, so it's stuck on the gear in the back. So how cool is that? And then the light sits around the back, and it dumps out more than enough light to light these signs. I had it on yesterday, and it really, really, really pops. And right now I'm only running on my reducer about 4.5 volts, just because I'm trying to keep it down a little bit. But it's more than enough. You saw that, to where it lit this thing up. So there's that. This will just come in here and sit on the wall in the front, just like that. I'll run this wire down. I'm going to run it down to here, and I have some copper pipe. And I'm going to run a piece of the copper pipe down to a stand that I have to find out what I'm going to do with the stand yet. And I might do a little fancy little S turn or something like that to give it a little look like it's got motion to it going forward. And then this piece it'll go through this into this. I'll epoxy it or super glue it into here where it can't go anywhere. And then that's how it's going to all mount. But then it just clips together. It's that easy. It's such a cool kit. But I'm really digging this switch. This thing can be used. It doesn't really mind the voltage, so CR2032 battery, and put that thing in a trunk. How cool would it be to just walk up to your car and touch it and have the power turn on and light your lights? Touch it again and it turns off. You know, and no matter what you do, you can hide it like Bruce did and have the wires run through the tires. So they're on the base, and you come up and touch the trunk, and everything lights up, and you don't have anything in there except for that little switch that you ran the wires for. And everything runs to the headlights from that. So that is so cool, and you can use the voltage regulator and power supply and go from 9 volt, a 5 volt USB charger, like one of these that just powers your phone. Hook that up to it, and then just run the LEDs off of that. This thing with these kind of LEDs, a 9 volt battery, the 9 volt battery, just trying to run this strip, made it nice and bright, worked great until about an hour into it when I touched the battery and it was warming up and the lights were starting to get dim. And I checked the battery after just that amount of time, and I only had like 7 volts left in it. And that was a brand new out of the plastic battery. So it chomped it down there pretty hard. But for this, how cool, you know? The spray is as smooth as glass right now, and I got to thank my my guys at Gallery for sending me out that airbrush. That's that new swallowtail siphon feed airbrush. I use the side feed on it. It's a siphon feed side feed, and I used a 0.5 millimeter tip, and it laid it down like glass. So there's that, and the body, the cones. All I need to do now is the brass rod, the base, put my sign in. I might make one by hand and maybe say Grandpa Mark's or Build for Fun or something like that. Or I might just use the Goodyear one that came with it. We'll find out. But with that, I just wanted to give you a quick tour of the inside of this before I button it up and nobody ever sees it again. So I want to thank our Gallery again. And if you use Grandpa Mark when you go to Gallery and their code, they'll give you 10% off, or I think it's 10% off. I want to thank all our veterans and all our deployed service members. I want to thank our first responders, because without them, we couldn't do what we're doing now. And I also want to say hi to Automotive Model Car Livecast. They're on every Thursday night. Check them out, 8 o'clock at night. They're a blast to watch. So with that, I'm going to come back to the blimp. I'm going to say we're almost there, and I will talk to you later. Thank you very much for watching.